I could work from anywhere. I love that aspect. I'll be in Cabo next week and I have many one-on-one business appointments, and I'll be doing my podcast from there next week. During the downturn, we started our real estate company. In 2009, we launched Highland Partners, and people said, "Do you know it's a recession?" We said, "Well, we would not have this opportunity if it wasn't." I was not into social media at the time, and I was like, we have to take advantage of social media and we have to just be out there and we just have to be moving. If you're going to be a flipper, you should be honest, and you know, you should be honest and forthright and don't dick around. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to say it. You just do what you love and you'll excel. Be your authentic self, the most important thing.
Debbi DiMaggio joins me here today. You can learn how she can help you by heading over to coachwithdebbi.com. Debbi is like not only one of the top producing realtors in California, but probably the nation. And it's really a great opportunity to talk to you and meet you here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
You know, Debbi, I'm sure you've shared this a million times over, but I would love to hear like how you found your way into real estate.
Absolutely. So I always start with, when I was growing up, I never knew what I was going to do. I always knew the only thing I did not want to do, and that was real estate. My dad was in real estate. He was in syndication, investing, flipping houses, and he was always tied to the phone. Of course, now looking back, of course, because we didn't have text messaging or cell phone. So he was always attached to the office or the home landline. And so we just couldn't go on proper vacations and take time. If he was working on a deal, he was tied to that phone. So I always said, that's what I don't want to do. And he was working 24 hours a day, it seemed. Long and the short of it, I tried different jobs and I hated having a boss. I love to work hard. I love meeting new people. I love learning new things. And so I evolved into real estate in my mid 20s. I've been doing this now 35 years and I wouldn't change a thing.
What motivates you to stick with it?
I love meeting new people and hearing their story. I'm from a little town called Piedmont, California. It's near Berkeley and Oakland and San Francisco. It's a little town and I grew up there all my life. And so I love hearing people's stories. Where did they come from? How did they get here? I never get tired of asking my clients those questions. And I really love to help people and connect people. It's just natural. I'm just a natural mom, always like trying to help someone and connect someone and make their life better. So for me, it's just kind of putting those puzzles together. Real estate is, buying and selling a home is the same. A lot of it is the same. We do have a lot of things that come up and they're like little puzzles and little things you have to figure out, jump through hurdles. Right now, I'm doing my very first VA loan, never have done a VA loan. And so I'm learning how to do it and we're getting through it. And we got it approved within 24 hours. We made sure that the condo he was purchasing was already VA approved. And so it just kind of sped things along. But I love figuring out puzzles and putting things together. So yeah, I don't tire of it. And because you have a cell phone and because you have a laptop and I can take my podcast on the road, I can work from anywhere. I love that aspect. I'll be in Cabo next week and I have many one-on-one business appointments, and I'll be doing my podcast from there next week. So I love the work from anywhere aspect as well.
Well, your dad was working from anywhere.
No,
Like
he was tied. He was tied to the wall.
True. That's
No,
true. There
no.
wasn't like probably a lot of laptops and
No,
cell
there was
phones back
nothing.
then.
No cell phones. He
Mm.
was tied to a wall. And as a young person, my mom and dad would pick me up after school, and he owned shopping centers as well. And I remember being picked up from school and having to go up to Santa Rosa and sit there like they were talking to the manager and dealing with the leasing and everything. And I'm like, oh, I was always so bored.
Well, 35 years in the business, you've had to have experienced or seen a number of challenges. Like, what
Yeah.
are some of the big challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
Well, with me, and I am writing a book right now on mindset in motion. And yes, we've been through lots of different markets, the crash in '09, let's say 2008, '09, 10. When things get tough, I work even harder. So when we have a slowdown time in August, that's when I'm putting in 110% on my marketing. I don't stop. So I don't let negativeness get into my vortex. I don't watch the news. I try not to. It does feed into you. So you learn enough without even trying. But I really am work by a strong mindset. I do not let those whatever's happening seep in. So I guess I always change a negative into a positive. Like right now, it's a great time for a buyer to buy because even though now we are starting to, some homes are seeing multiple offers still, some homes are sitting on the market. So this is a perfect time. If there's a house that's been on the market over 14 days, then let's go for it and let's get you a house at a price that you typically wouldn't get that same house for. During the downturn, we started our real estate company in 2009. We launched Highland Partners, and people said, "Do you know it's a recession?" We said, "Well, we would not have this opportunity if it wasn't." I was not into social media at the time, and I was like, we have to take advantage of social media and we have to just be out there and we just have to be moving. We started in the downturn very successfully, and it was really exciting. Twitter started, I think, Airbnb, a lot of companies started during the downturn. So you really just have to get your mind right and just go for it and don't let anything stop you.
Well, you brought up a couple of these downturns. Have you noticed any trends or anything in the market right now that are reminiscent from something in the past?
It actually, in 35 years, this is the most unique market, I would say. It started last year, maybe even a year and a half ago now. First, it started out with the rates. People were just, the rates are so high. Then you had to convince them, well, rates used to be really high. So at 6 and 7%, that's not horrible because we aren't going to see a 2% or a 3% interest rate, I do not think, in our lifetime again. And so you have to get over that. I understand there's people who have that interest rate and they don't want to move because they have that great interest rate. So we have less movement. But anyone looking to buy a house now, they have to adjust. And that's one of my things I say in my book. You have to learn to pivot and adjust. So this is what it is. Now, the interest rates are still not great. The wars have been really tough. People, uncertainty, what's going to happen. So we were really going through that. I mean, we're still going through it, but buyers are still going through that. But I think right now we're starting to see some homes, like I said, are not selling right away. I lost on one the other day. It was a $4 million home and there were 3 offers on it. It went for probably mid to low fours. And then I wrote on a house the other day, there were 5 offers and we got it, but there were 5 offers in this market. And then we had a listing that wasn't selling. And so we reduced the price and then we ended up getting a buyer. So it's kind of all over the place right now. Pricing is super key, and it's really about educating the buyers why we have to reduce prices. If a home has been on the market for a period of time, for us, that might be a month, a couple weeks to a month. The reason we reduce the price is in order to generate new interest, but also to get those people who have been looking at that house to look at now it's been reduced. And that's exactly what happened. Buyers here and agents here don't want to offend the seller. So they don't bring in a lower offer. They wait for the seller to reduce the price. So after we reduced it, we ended up having multiple offers within 24 hours and a sale and a 10-day close.
Mm.
Just the
You know,
mentality.
it's right. It's a lot of mentality. When we sell houses, we call it the death spiral when we start to have to reduce the
Right.
price of our house. Because at a certain point, if you don't time it right, people start to question, why is the price being reduced? And why has it been on the market for so long? What are we missing?
Right.
So then you get a little more scrutiny associated with the property.
Right. Right. And, there's some things you can't change. Right. So one of the things, this house was a nice house. It was nicely done, and the sellers weren't going to knock out there was a laundry room and a breakfast room, and they weren't going to do that kind of structural by making that huge, that opening up that kitchen area. The other thing was, even though there were 5 bedrooms, there were 3 on one level, there wasn't a primary bath. There was a hall bath that was very nice, but it didn't have a primary bath. So some things you just really can't change prior to market, but we brought it on looking really great. So it really comes down to price and who's in the market at the time. Sometimes here in Northern California, people have just invented something or just got a huge payout from stock options or something. So when someone says comp a house, it's like, we don't know who's going to be writing. Of those 5 offers, who are those people? What is their capability? Is it funny money, or is it really based on what the value is?
Do you mentor quite a few new realtors to do what
Yeah.
you do? Like, what are some of the key advice that you give them, especially when you're starting out?
Yes. So when I say I mentor new agents and seasoned agents, sometimes the older agents are not embracing what they need to embrace, right? So the newer agent comes in and they're ready to try everything, but they're also newer, so they've embraced social media and other things. The very first thing someone needs to do, whether you're an investor or a real estate agent like myself, it's all about collaborating. Collaboration is key. Getting to know whether it's you, your other investors, other people who might want to invest or buy these properties that you're investing in. For me, it's as a realtor, getting to know your colleagues because I might have the listing, but I need the buyer's agent and I want to be able to work together with them or vice versa. You really want to endear yourself to your colleagues. A lot of times people think they're our competitors. They're not. We're colleagues. That is my number one. The other thing is, in order to build your pipeline, in order to build your business, you got to do things like we're doing today. We're meeting, if you have someone that's moving to California, hopefully you'd refer me to that person. And if I had someone in your area, I now know you and I can refer to you. So I like the whole world is open to you. So I have a collaboration with an agent in Italy. They saw me on LinkedIn. They saw my posting. They WhatsApped me. We had a conversation. And now I have some properties in Lake Garda that I'm hoping to help them sell. So it's really about networking. I've done a lot of charity work, but I never did anything formal as like a sales type of structure. I never had a CRM. I never did professional networking. Now I'm part of a Business Networking International, BNI group, and we meet once a week. It's very organized. And the goal is that you meet people one-on-one once a week, one person a week. Usually I try to do more because the more people you get to know who trust you and know you and can understand where you're coming from, it helps for them to give you a referral. So networking one-on-one with people is super important. And then I'm a natural connector and I love to refer people. So I'm always number one on referrals because it's easy for me to refer. My mind thinks that way. So that's only one a week. I've already given three when our meeting was over on Wednesday. I think I'd given three by the end of the day referrals. And then it's about lifelong learning. So whether you're in investing, whether you're in real estate, whether you're whatever career you're in, it's really about lifelong learning. I am a huge proponent of Audible and Blinkist. I love those two apps. And I listen to a lot of improvement in business. I love to just continue to learn. And that's another aspect of BNI. So if anyone wants to be a guest in my group, it doesn't matter where you are, you can learn about BNI. Our meetings are Wednesdays on Zoom at 7:50 in the morning for an hour. They're very organized and you'll be off at 9:10 and on your way, but you'll really learn how it's set up. If you're interested, I can connect you anywhere in the world with a BNI group.
Yeah, I was actually involved in BNI for a while, so it's a small world. BNI is a pretty big outfit.
Yeah.
You mentioned a collaborative work environment. Before we hit record, you mentioned being hit up by a lot of fix and flippers right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
I'd be curious as to your perspective. How should a fix and flipper or an investor approach a realtor and establish that relationship?
Okay. So I'm hit up I've already had 5 text messages. Hi, my name's Jack and I'm with FlipX or I'm blah, blah, blah. And do you have anything? We want to do 10 more projects by the end of the year. We get this constantly. I'm always nice. I always respond to saying, I don't have anything today. Keep in touch. And then I'll respond because I started a list to have these people. I said, what is your name? And then I have on my notes on my phone a list of all these people. The one thing I noticed, what's very upsetting, is that they hit you up, but they want a perfect deal. I mean, if it was a perfect deal, I'd do it myself, but it's very frustrating because this just recently happened to my son who started working with us. So we had an opportunity from another agent. He said, we have a property and it's in a good location. And so my son called all the flippers on the list. One of them said yes. They wrote the offer. And what's really bad and in poor etiquette, we got into contract at a good price. And then they had my son constantly going and showing their contractors, which was a lie. They completely lied. They were trying to resell it before they closed. And then at the last minute, and this happens a lot with flippers, they're not my favorite people. They tried to renegotiate and my son just said, no, told the listing agent, let's just kick him out. I mean, that they tried to renegotiate a big sum. And it was, so they lied. And so I think that's the thing. If you're going to be a flipper, you should be honest, and, you should be honest and forthright, and don't dick around. I'm sorry. I don't know how else to say it. I just think it's rude. I had another one make an offer, and we did communicate on the phone. And so I got to see he was real, and he made the offer. And I understand it's a numbers thing. So that was fine. I had a good, fine experience. He didn't get it because he didn't want to come up 5 or 10,000. And then we ended up selling it to someone else. But I did give him an opportunity, and it was fine because he was respectful and communicative. But someone to go in and to lie and say, oh, these are my contractors, yet they're trying to, just be honest. We know what you're trying to do, but don't go in with a high offer. I am trying to nurture it a little bit with these people, but there's people that'll be off the list for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what gives wholesalers a bad name, to be honest. I mean, I've seen what you're saying, and there's some real estate gurus that's exactly what they teach, is get the property under contract.
Oh God.
And then use the feedback to renegotiate. Like, I've never been comfortable doing that.
I mean, it's just, I guess they must get it sometime. Maybe they're appealing to people who just have no way out. But yeah, it's frustrating. They should just be more honest. And I mean, even if he was saying, this person who was having my son, constantly show these supposed inspectors, he could have been honest, and they were in escrow. And then to go renegotiate like that and just to lie out straight. I guess that's what the gurus teach, and it works for some, but that's why I like residential and not commercial. Commercial, there's a lack of disclosure, where in residential, we have to disclose. And that's just my nature and my personality. So I wouldn't be good as a liar. I mean, they are lying because they're holding information.
Well, just to remind everybody, we're talking to Debbi, and you can learn more at coachwithdebbi.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. If you found some value in what we're talking about so far, do us a quick favor. This show only grows if you share it with one of your investor friends. So really would appreciate that. And if you're watching us on YouTube, quick like and subscribe. So Debbi, I know you also have worked with quite a few high profile, maybe even professional, high income earners, if you will. Like, is there anything we should be aware of when dealing with that type of population or network?
So they have the money, they can spend what they want, and it probably wouldn't affect them, but they still want to do their due diligence. So they still want to know that they're getting a good deal. The other day, they could have bought the house, but in the end, it wasn't a perfect house for them. So you still need to be sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's, and you are giving them good service. Just because they have cash doesn't mean they're going to want to throw it away. So just treat them the same. These sometimes are these people's first time homes, and it's a big number, 4, 5, 6 million, and it's their first home because, whatever their business is, they've made some money. So you would think because they have that much money now, they would be more informed, but they're not, because this is their first home or maybe second home. So you want to make sure you're educating them and you're treating them with respect, and that you're just making sure that, don't assume what people know. They were so happy that I booked our pre-inspection ahead of time so they would understand the house. And I do it every day. I go through all the components of a house, and then I'll pose a question, even though I know the answer. I'll share some component about the home or the mechanics. And it was really enlightening because they had no idea half the things. So they were really happy that I was able to help them through that. So it just gives you more credibility too. So I think just the more you can explain, we have all these great contacts, and we can get these professionals in there to help them and guide them and answer their questions to put their mind at ease. So I think that's really important.
It's amazing how we work with this stuff all day, every day. It can be easily left out, or you
Right.
just assume somebody else knows what you're talking about.
You can't assume, because there's so many things that might be so minor to us, but it's not to them.
Right. I help quite a few people use AI and ChatGPT in their business. And I always have to remind myself to go to the beginning, because I can't assume they even know what I mean when I say the word prompt. I don't. So we got to define some terms just so we're all on the same page.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about any of that and why that's important to you?
Sure. So I kind of fell into charity work by accident. And now when I coach, I always reverse engineer everything. I was invited to join to help someone. They said, will you help me in this charity? We're doing a kitchen tour. And it was a children's charity. So all of the charities I've been involved in all have to do with helping children and children at risk. As I was working in the charity, I was like, oh my God, I love it. I just feel so good helping and, just working to raise money for this demographic who needs it. And I loved working around. For me, they were my like-minded people. We were there helping. We weren't working in our businesses, but we were working together side by side with someone who was similar. And so now later when I coach, I say, you do not have to do charity work. If you like to golf, golf. If you like to cook or garden, do that. I don't garden, so I can't join the garden club. It would be ridiculous. But every charity that I visit, last night I was at a social for a charity work, East Bay Agency for Children, and they have a lot of programs to help families and children. And I'm just around like-minded people. So again, when I'm coaching, whatever it is you love, do that, and you will meet and you will develop your relationship and your business by default because you're surrounding yourself with people who understand you. So that's one of my biggest tips in coaching is just do what you love and it'll just come out. So when I'm speaking about charity work, I'm really passionate about it. And so it shows who I am and it's just natural because I can talk about it. And one of the other charities I do in Beverly Hills is for MS. And then another one here is Children's Hospital. So it just, yeah, just working around like-minded people is just something that I like to do. And you don't have to do it. You just do what you love and you'll excel. I had a student once, a client, not a client, he was working for us. We had just started the company. And I said, Christo, your bio is so boring. Like, okay, it sounds fine, but I don't know who you are from your bio. I said, tell me about you. What do you like to do? He's like, well, I'm a tennis pro. I love to play tennis. I'm like, why isn't it in your bio? And he said, well, what does that have to do with real estate? So I love sharing that story because once he started sharing and just because it's not like you're on the tennis court talking about real estate, you're just being yourself and you're truly being yourself. And so he started dressing a little bit more, not in tennis clothes, but he just started being himself more. And he brought the tennis in and he was embracing who he was and he started doing much better. And he was happier. You could see him driving around and it just changed his whole outlook. Before he was like in these suits and he was trying to be this cookie cutter person he thought he had to be. And then when he embraced who he was, things opened up for him. It was really great to see.
That's interesting you bring that up because I've been thinking about that a lot lately about being not only more transparent, but being yourself in these situations.
Yes.
I think we all fall into these roles that we assume we should be playing instead of just
Mhm.
being yourself.
Be your authentic self, the most important thing.
Yeah. So, how about your work-life balance here? You were talking about taking vacation and still working. How are you managing that? And what are some of the tips there?
Right. So I'm a workaholic for sure, but I'm also working on projects and things I love. So I don't really consider it work. So I'll take my mic and I have a podcast. I think I'm on one and then I will do my own podcast, Mastering the Art of Real Estate next Thursday. And then I have some one-on-one meetings with my BNI people set up, but those are like 15-minute appointments. I'm not going to be sitting in the sun for 24 hours. So I get up early. I wake up sometime between 3:30 and 4:30. So I have a lot of my morning routine that I love to do and just listen to meditation and motivation and just kind of be by myself, no talking, and I'll go walk around. We're going to be in Cabo next week. So I'll get up early and I'll just go walk around listening to my headset. I'll be watching the sunrise. I'll be taking photos. I'm just in my own head. And then there's plenty of time during the day to take off and I won't work at night probably. I have our deals are pretty much taken care of, but if I have to, I will not take a call. I will, if someone calls, I will answer it. I could be anywhere. I could be in the pool. I could be, I can answer the call. So I think the only time I ever took 7 days off without taking a call was in Cuba because there wasn't good reception or connection at that time. My husband was home and we worked together, so he was able to handle it. I definitely want to do I'm writing a book called Mindset in Motion. It's the Mindset in Motion method. I definitely want to spend some time writing because I will be away from my home, work here in this area. So I'll be in a place that I think I can get some chapters underway. And I'll find time to go to the spa and to do what I want to do. But for me to take a full day off I don't know, I'd probably go into shock.
So I'd assume you're going with some people, or
Yes.
do they ever tell you like enough now? Come on,
Oh, of
like, you're
course.
on.
Of course. I'll do
So,
my best
well,
to hide it.
there you go. You know, one of the things that I wanted to touch briefly on before we jump into the rapid fire and close out this episode is you did mention something about seniors and their next chapter.
Right.
Like, what are you working on there, and how do you help with some of that?
Okay. So now again, I'm reverse engineering so I can pertain it to what you do as an investor. So yesterday I was on a podcast and the podcast host said, I've never heard of anyone doing seminars for seniors. I said, well, doing workshops is one of the pillars of my Foundation for Success program and my coaching is that one of the things is to get out in front of people, right? If you get out in front of a room of people, whether you're coaching on investing, those are potential clients. So for me, I've always loved working with older people and helping them. They've lived in their house a long time. They're overwhelmed. They don't know where to go next. They don't know how they're going to finance it. How are they going to downsize? What are they going to do with all their stuff? So there's so many questions. So about 15 years ago, I did a seminar called Demystifying the Downsizing Process. And I did a PowerPoint. I invited people to come to the community center, and I have written a couple of books. So at the end, I gave them The Art of Real Estate, a book I had written, but I had a sheet for them. So, and then they had a PowerPoint. I gave a PowerPoint and just went through all the steps. It's what we do every day. I help people get ready for market, and I prepare their homes, and I help them with people that I have will help them with estate sales and downsizing. So then recently, and you can go to seniorsnextchapter.com and you can see the different people I had that were part of our workshop. And so we were just helping seniors, just answering questions, whether we had someone who does trust, is your trust updated? Has a spouse died? And is your trust now updated? Did you get a divorce? What are those different things? Is it updated? We had someone talk about long care insurance, health insurance. We had, of course, a mortgage person, myself, and we had someone who helps where they're consultants so that you don't pay them a fee. Well, this group, they're senior consultants. They help you find a community, whether that's going to be community, like a housing community, a retirement community. Well, not for this group, but if it was, or if you had someone who had dementia, whatever that new community or assisted living was going to be, what level of care you needed, she helps people establish and find those places. I had no idea that there are so many places. I just recently got my senior real estate designation, and there are so many different services available to seniors. So just again, whatever it is you're doing, it doesn't have to be real estate or investing. It can be anything. But when you bring a group of people into a room and you educate them, you're getting to know so many people, right? So hopefully at some point, one of these people will want to, sell their home, or I can help them in any way. I also created a brochure called Aging in Place Gracefully. It's not like I'm inviting you here because I only want to sell your house. Here's a brochure on aging in place with all the different things you could do while you're living in your home. So again, just offering service and being of service to people and getting to know more people. And who knows, they might refer someone else to me. It might not be them.
Yeah, that's really important. And that seems to be kind of a recurring theme that we've talked about here today is just putting yourself out there. One of the things that when I first started, it took me a while just to introduce people that I was a real estate investor. It was hard for me to get over that for some silly reason. And the more you tell people what you do, the more it's reciprocal.
Absolutely.
Well, Debbie, this has just been fantastic. You do your site again, coachwithdebbi.com. That's DEBBI.com. I'm going to have that as a clickable link in the show notes. But before we jump into the rapid fire and close out this episode, is there anything else we should have tried to hit on?
I think we got it all. I'm just excited to be here and share. And I guess what I could say, I always like to say, if someone has a question, reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Well, if you're ready, Debbie, we'll jump into the rapid fire. What lie do realtors often tell themselves?
Often tell themselves business is great.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, start with a strong foundation. That's my class, foundationforsuccess.co. It's get that's, I mean, oh my God, if people would just take my course and it could be done in a month or less. It just get your foundation set up from the beginning. I did not do that. It worked out, but it's better to have your foundation in place.
Do you have a book recommendation?
What am I reading? I'm always reading multiple books. Well, right now I'm trying to take a summer break on my reads. So I just go on Audible and pick some summertime reading, but usually I'm reading only nonfiction. I'll tell you that I read last year. I read all kinds of business books, but the one I want to share is what I read last January when I decided as I was going to turn 60 that I wanted to run a half marathon. I read You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and I ran a full marathon on mindset alone. I did not train.
Oh, wow. I kind of use Blinkist and Audible in parallel. I'll listen
Yeah.
to the Blinkist summary to see and then if that interests me enough, then I'll listen to the whole audiobook.
Yeah, I
So,
love Blinkist and Audible. They're the best for those business books.
and then finally, what single strategy or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact?
Well, I'll have to say it's been AI.
How do you use it?
Oh my God, I'm nonstop. I'm just crazy on it now. It started with just descriptions. How many 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath houses do we have with the garden, close to shops and restaurants and freeway? So you put that in with the address and it comes out with just so much more. So that's where it started. And then as just recently, because I'm writing this book, Mindset in Motion, and I obviously see also on YouTube how everyone on YouTube channels they have merchandise. So I started on AI. I put in my mindset in motion, my colors, and I said, create merchandise for me. So I have all this merchandise that I created on ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy what you can generate from that. Well, Debbie, this is really appreciate your time here today. I hope you consider coming back again sometime.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.